Right. Okay, guys, thanks for joining me today. I know we are working on a current project right now to be announced in the future, but in the meantime, I wanted to chat with you guys a little bit about another deal that you recently completed in Lee's Summit, Missouri, a deal called Somerset. But before we get into that, let's give a little bit of background, a little bit of history for the folks that are watching and listening. So both of you, tell me a little bit about yourselves and kind of why you got started in real estate, and then why you made the transition into commercial scale multifamily. So, Greg, let's start with you.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, James. So yeah, really, I got started in real estate in 2004 while I was still in college, and before that, my dad had been the traditional landlord, kind of handling everything. So I'd helped him out around the properties, et cetera, when I was teenager and everything, and just had some spare time on my hand when I was completing college, and wanted to fix up a house. Actually bought my first house was actually a triplex that I bought.
Nice.
Converted it into 2 units, and then actually several years later made it back into 3 units. Just primarily because of the market drivers for the tenants that were in the community, and my ultimate goal of getting to a certain dollar per square foot in revenue. So I've always kind of had that mentality of wanting to, if there was a vacancy, to not have to have zero income coming in, at least enough income to kind of pay the bills. Yeah. So the evolution to much larger scale was inevitable. I just didn't know it really at the time when I was much younger in nature.
Gotcha. Cool. Okay, John, what about you? How'd you get started in real estate, and why commercial multifamily?
So I've been in KC now for 14 years. Came here for healthcare IT, but at the same time, in parallel, started in real estate. I soon figured out that a job is not scalable, and it wasn't going to make me independently wealthy anytime. So directly soon after, I just got introduced to a few other colleagues, and we bought some rentals, house hacked myself. Obviously run out of your money quickly the first, and ended up looking in how to scale, and that would be through commercial properties. And you expand that network, and you start to group your money for larger investments, and before you know it, you have a property manager taking care of your properties while you're on vacation.
Sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. Cool. Thanks, guys. So with Somerset, John, can you give us kind of the intro, the backstory, and then tell us how you found the deal? I know the market is hot right now, so fill us in.
Yes. Like you mentioned, it's in Lee Summit. It was a 48. We soon turned it into a 52 unit, increase the NOI that way. I had a prior relationship with the broker on a prior deal that we didn't end up winning, but soon later, a few months later, he reached out again on an off-market deal at that time. We did some underwriting and knew that we needed to bring in someone with a lot more experience on the underwriting side, and that's where Greg came in, and further processed those numbers and realized that this was a great deal that we needed investors for. But that's how we knew about that deal from the start.
Cool. Nice. It's good to know people, right?
Yes.
Cool. Okay. Now, with this deal, I know you're transitioning from the small scale residential into, arguably a fairly big scale commercial. Now, one of the things that always kind of pops into people's heads is money, financing. How do I get the money? How do I get the financing? So, Greg, can you tell us a little bit more about the whole financing aspect of it, what it looked like, how you got, the size of a loan?
Yeah, so we ended up going with a Fannie Mae loan. So that's the traditional government financing for these commercial properties. So attractive interest rate, 10-year term on that loan, and over a 30-year amortization. So that's really great. But it was a real struggle to get there. Having my personal portfolio and doing things like that. Working with some of these smaller lenders, even hard money lenders. there's a lot less criteria and rigidity around what they want, what they need from you. The big boys, they want a lot more detail. I mean, the application packet was probably a total of 30 pages, and things like that you had to go through. And times three, there was 3 general partners, and we added another couple key principals that also had to sign on the loan. So it's just when you say it's a big deal, it really was. I mean, it's just large in size of not only the loan amount but just in the work required. Almost daily communications back with their underwriting team to get the finances in order, so that way they will actually approve the loan once the appraisal came back. Just a lot of back and forth in that, and I mean, we could probably go into a much deeper dive just in agency financing.
Oh, sure.
Future, or any financing in the future. So.
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
And to add on to that, also, we actually were not the highest bid on that deal. We ended up getting it not only because of the prior relationship, but also our ability to deep dive into it, to inquire about its history, run the numbers, due diligence, working with our property manager. And with all those things, we were able to put together a good story for the seller, enough for them to believe that we could close on the deal, which we ended up ultimately doing.
Got it. And that's a good tip too, just to, present not just a number. It's not just a piece of paper, but it's you guys.
Right.
So cool. Now moving on a little bit from financing, John, what was the most challenging part of putting together this deal?
From my perspective, I would say not only the time balance between, living a normal life and trying to get this deal done for the investors, you promised a certain return to, but it also was convincing our investors. It's mostly a local group, most of them all unaccredited, that it was okay to make this transition into a hands-off passive real estate investment, because they're all used to running their own rentals and them becoming the property manager. With this, it was hands-off. You would have a professional property manager, and you would get quarterly returns and get updates through emails and have the ability to talk to someone that's actually managing the deal. So for me, it was transitioning their investment from residential to commercial. But in the end, they realized that it's the best way to scale, because you can only do so many repairs or deal with so many tenants at some point.
Yeah, I think
to someone that does it 24/7.
I think we've all experienced that before. Yeah.
Yep.
And Greg, when we were talking earlier, I know you kind of smirked as we were sort of talking about challenges to putting together that deal and raising money and stuff. Any other thoughts or any flavor to add on John's comments there?
Yeah, I just kind of everything. There's just a lot of stuff that we didn't know. I mean, decades plus of experience amongst the three of us that got awarded the deal and closed on it, and it's just all the things you didn't know that are just kind of constantly popped up, probably just on a daily basis, although it felt like on an hourly basis almost. I don't even know how much time John and I spent on the phone together during those 3 months, but I mean. It was daily, even on the weekends, of calls, and I think the biggest part for me, where we want to kind of have that whatever work-life balance, harmony, whatever kind of phrase or term you want to throw around it, but just being able to set expectations with family and friends that, hey, actually I've got a big project here. I need some time to devote to that. After that's done, I can come back here and fill phrases, kind of fill in the piggy bank before you need to withdraw from it. So I think that was kind of one of the biggest things in just, not necessarily commercial real estate related, but just, factoring in everything, because you need your family to support you, you need your friends to support you, invest with us, etc. While you're going through this, 90-day-ish activity.
Yeah. Okay. And that kind of leads me to my last question too, and that's, you're not, it's not just a one-time thing, this deal. You've purchased the property, you've brought on the investor team, you've brought together your team of general partners. Now you're executing on the business plan. Now, Greg, you were kind of getting into some lessons and some things learned there too, but do you want to give us maybe the biggest lesson that you've learned to this point?
The biggest lesson is probably the importance of insurance in the commercial real estate field. From a much smaller scale, even 16 units, it's just kind of $50 to $100 a door a month. It's just what it is, kind of whatever kind of threshold you want to put on there from the deductible perspective. But when you really get into the government loans, things like that, even other deals, the lenders have more rigid requirements around what is required, and fitting that premium, that cost of that premium into your underwriting model can make or break a deal. Much like the form that the debt would take on could make or break a deal, which is a totally separate conversation. So, but I'm learning more and more that insurance is a key driver in the entire aspect of a deal. So, having a good commercial insurance agent, obviously work across state lines or develop those local relationships, et cetera, if you're looking in multiple states. Just really critical that we've learned over the last year or so.
Yeah, gotcha. And that's not something that would pop up in any investor forum or something. They wouldn't say insurance. So good tip on that.
I've never heard it talked about in 5 years of listening and being active in the commercial space.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. John, what about you? Biggest lesson that you've learned up to this point with Somerset?
Yeah, so including insurance and those requirements, it would be probably two things. One, having some type of management platform that you could having some type of management platform to keep you organized through the process. The due diligence process is very convoluted. It's stressful. There's a lot of moving parts. So having the ability to be having an area where everyone can aggregate their information and daily updates is key. And also possibly putting your property management on that same platform so they can be accountable for their tasks.
Okay. Nice. All right. Well,
accountability is another big factor.
Accountability with each other, with the property manager, with the tenants.
Yeah, across everywhere. The entire team that's involved in the deal.
Yeah,
making sure that that people are they know what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to get it done by, and things like that, and just being accountable to each other and to the team.
Yeah.
Right. That's cool. That's for sure.
And setting those expectations up front. I like it. It's a twofer.
Yeah, there you go.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, that was the last question I had for now. I know we're going to talk more about Somerset again in a future video. So listeners, readers, watchers, if you like this, check that one out as well. Thanks again, you guys. Good to talk with you.
James.
Thanks, James. Thanks, John.
Thanks, Greg.